Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 1 through chapter 9, verse 9. And this reading is all about the dedication of the temple. So, after 7 long years of labor, the temple is finished, and it's been constructed by Israel and overseen by Solomon to the exact specifications that David had put together for this temple. And now it's time to dedicate it. So, what Solomon does is he gathers all of Israel together as they dedicate this with many offerings and sacrifices, and then bringing the ark as well as the tent of meeting inside of the temple. And in the midst of doing this, Solomon prays a very long prayer, and it ends up being a very prophetic prayer because he prays to God, just asking him to forgive Israel whenever they fall into different kinds of sin. And as we go through the Old Testament, we're going to see that many of these things that Solomon prayed about and asked God to forgive them for are sins that they're going to eventually fall into at some point in their history. And then we get to chapter 9, where the dedication is done after 14 days. On the 15th day, Solomon sends them home. And then the Lord comes to Solomon and basically reminds him of the covenant that he made with David, that if his sons walk in his ways and walk in obedience to him, that they will not fail to have a son on the throne. And this is God just reminding him that the same thing that you have asked Israel to do, the same thing is going to be required of you, walking in obedience and following my commands and being wholeheartedly devoted to me. And this is kind of going to be a glimpse of what we see happening, just like we saw in Solomon's prayer, that even though in verse 60 and 61, we see the end result of the temple supposedly being for the entire world to know that the Lord is God over the entire earth, and that in order for this to happen, that the people of Israel need to be wholeheartedly devoted to him, to the Lord, and walking in obedience to his commands. That even though that's the end goal, that much of what we saw in the prayer is eventually what's going to take place. And we're going to eventually see the same thing happen in Solomon's life. But the takeaway here is indeed verse 60 and 61, that the end goal is for the entire earth to know that the Lord is God. And that's going to come to fruition by believers fulfilling verse 61, which tells us to be wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord and walking in obedience to his commands. What are his commands? Well, it's very simple. Love God, love people, and part of doing that is fulfilling the Great Commission, which is making disciples who make disciples and sharing the gospel. If we do those things, then we will see the fulfillment of verse 60. So that's what I want to leave you with today as you meditate on God's word. And until next time, grace and peace.